We often hear how CEOs or athletes are paid millions of dollars. The average chief executive officer salary in the United States is almost $800,000 as of 2022. But it's often much higher when we talk about larger companies where compensations could be dozens of millions of dollars, if not hundreds. Tim Cook, for example, made over $770 million in 2021 alone. That kind of money even entrepreneurs don't often make. Or Nvidia's CEO, who made a little over $500 million in a single year. But the fact is, only 15% of millionaires were in senior leadership roles, such as vice president or CEO or CFO, COO, etc. 93% of millionaires said they have achieved their wealth because they worked hard, not from big salaries, but rather by building something of their own. It's not necessarily a multi-billion-dollar company, but still worth a few million dollars at least. But most of the advice that we often hear from people around us is mostly from people who haven't achieved anything themselves. Since it's easier to be said than done, people throw words around. Have you heard the quote, "The problem with the world is that the intelligent people are full of doubt, while the stupid ones are full of confidence"? That's because the more people know, the more they realize they don't know. The obvious isn't always the obvious. And since most people are either poor or live paycheck to paycheck, it makes sense why there is so much dumb advice floating around. So let's take a look at 5 dumb advices people often give. If you're ready, give this video a thumbs up and let's start with the first one. Drop out or quit and start your own business. This is a popular advice, and looking at it from a side, it looks so convincing. If he could do it, what is stopping you from doing that? In fact, when you look at anyone's success, it looks effortless, as if these people became such a success overnight, especially when it comes to successful athletes. It looks as if anyone can do that. What is stopping you? However, if you think about it, how many more athletes are there that work as hard as others but didn't make it for one reason or another? They got injured, they didn't have enough support, or were slightly worse than their peers. The world is filled with athletes. There are literally millions of them all around the globe. However, you only know a few of them who made it to the top. They are known as the survivors. The vast majority of the money that is made in this industry is literally by the top few. Ronaldo, for example, is paid over $1 million per Instagram post, but there are few players who are paid that much. And even the vast majority who made it to the top don't get paid that much. The same goes to any other aspect of life. Under one successful startup, there is at least 9 others that tried their best but failed. Maybe it wasn't the right time for the right idea, maybe they couldn't get the needed financing, maybe something was wrong with the leadership. So when you hear the advice that Steve Jobs dropped out of college and built the largest company in the world, that doesn't mean that if you also drop out, you're going to end up like him. In fact, the data shows that, on average, people who graduated do better financially and personally in life than those who did not graduate. In fact, this advice is mostly given by financially illiterate people who are struggling financially. Any wise person who actually succeeded at anything in life will tell you that it all depends on you, on your strength and circumstances. If you need to drop out to pursue your goals, then be it, but make sure you have thought it well and you know what exactly you are doing. Number 2, we live once, so stop saving and start enjoying. This is a great advice. Living while constantly being worried about the future doesn't make sense. What is the point of saving so much money when you might not see that money at all? What if you pass away tomorrow? What if a car hits you? So enjoy while you can, and if you need more in the future, you will earn it. That sounds logical, however, that is not how the world works. First of all, you never know when you're going to die. This is not something that is often planned. We just have to accept the fact that sometimes some things are outside our control. Secondly, as you grow older, your expenses rise. Remember when you were a teenager? $1,000 back then seemed like a fortune. But today, as an adult, it doesn't even cover your rent. Tomorrow, as you get older, whatever money you earn today will not be enough. That is normal since your needs and wants grow, so does your spending. So if you live with that mindset, soon you will find yourself struggling from paycheck to paycheck. But then it will be too late to do something, especially if you're going to have a family and kids. 61% of Americans are back to living paycheck to paycheck after unrelenting inflation that is driving prices up. So while it makes sense to enjoy the present, you should always keep a sharp eye on the future, especially the financial side of it. Always save and always invest, even if you don't need that extra income now. Number 3. Renting is a waste of money. I can't stop meeting people who time to time try to convince me that renting is an absolute waste of money. It's like burning money. You're paying someone else's mortgage. Why would you waste a fortune on rent when you can take a mortgage and end up with a house, even if that means you have to wait 30 years? To be honest, this is dumb logic. Even if you assume that buying a house is cheaper in the long run, when you rent, you're not throwing money away, you're getting something in return. When you get an Uber, you don't get the car, you get a drive. You're not getting the company either, you're just getting a service. The Uber is going to take you from point A to point B, which is the whole purpose of the car. So that's when you rent a house. The point of the house isn't to own it, but to have a roof over your head. So when you rent, you're getting a place to stay. But you always need a place to stay. That is why most people still assume that renting is a waste of money, especially when you have the option to buy a house for the exact same money. And that is where the misconception starts. Most people do not compare all the cost that comes with buying a house and only take into account the usual price tag and compare it directly to renting. I am not discouraging anyone from buying a house, but it isn't always the best option, considering that sometimes the market is at its peak, other times it might not suit your circumstances. Number 4. Having a routine makes your life boring. I've heard this a million times, especially back in college. I would never stay late with friends, almost always back before midnight to be able to wake up at the same time every single day and start my morning routine. My friend used to say that my life is boring because I stick to the same routine all the time. However, the truth is that a routine is the only way to financial independence. A routine is the only way to achieve something in life. Everything that I have achieved is because I was disciplined enough to push myself to move closer to my goals, one step closer every single day. In fact, when you don't have a routine, you're constantly distracted. Your life might seem to you like it's more interesting, but the truth is that a few years down the road, you will find yourself asking a simple question. Why did time fly so fast that I haven't achieved any of my goals? Number 5. Keep trying. You will eventually make it. I hate giving up. Imagine putting so much effort into something only to find out that you have failed. They say that successful people never give up. They keep trying until they make it. But that's not how the world works. If you tried and it didn't work, don't keep trying, but rather keep adjusting your strategy until you find what actually works. And if it still doesn't work, maybe you should do something else. Of course, there are successful examples of people who actually made it to the top, but again, they are the minority. Even if we take the most successful entrepreneurs, Steve Jobs, he managed Apple so terribly that the board decided to fire him. So he tried something else and founded Pixar, the company that became successful to the point where it sold it to Disney for $7.6 billion.